News updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. We mentioned this a few weeks back when they were doing their promo tour in advance of the launch of The Acolyte, this new Star Wars series. Showrunner Leslie Heidland and actress Amandla Stenberg. And this is what they had to say in preview for The Acolyte.
I want to ask you both because this is, I would say, arguably the gayest Star Wars, I think, by a considerable margin. And are you excited about that? Are you
Not
bracing
the gayest
yourself?
Star Wars. Not the.
It's pretty gay, let's be honest. Leslie, how do you feel?
Am I gay? Yes.
Well, no, I know
Yeah.
you are gay, but I'm asking, are you excited about putting this, this is going to be a talking point.
Is it going to be a talking point?
I'm sure some.
Because nerds are gay.
Well,
Yeah.
some nerds are very not gay and are very threatened by gay
Well, that's
stuff.
true. But
Yeah.
in my world, nerds are gay.
Okay. Was this the fun element of it?
No,
Okay.
I don't think so. And yet people have told me that it's the gayest Star Wars, and I frankly
You're offended?
into it. No.
I think that Star Wars is so gay already.
Okay.
I mean, have you seen the fits? We'd be like, look how gay this is, and then send each other a reference photo.
And are you telling me with a straight face that C-3PO is straight?
They're a couple. That's what I think. But this is more outward.
I think it's canon that R2-D2 is a lesbian.
Oh,
Ooh.
interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
Ask Filoni. Okay.
Ask for
Can you
one.
imagine?
Yeah, talk to Filoni.
And then Amandla Stenberg was doing, all the Sunday night talkies and stuff because they're so much fun.
When people watch The Hate U Give, what do you want them to walk away with? Because I know everyone has a slightly different feeling.
Well, I mean, white people crying actually was the goal.
Yeah.
It was the goal.
Yeah. Okay, the identitarian politics. Well, out of the gate, as I understand it, The Acolyte is drawing about the same audience as Don Lemon's podcast did. For more on this and other matters, including that recent Hollywood celebrity-studded fete of one incumbent president, we're pleased to be joined by Christian Toto, host of the Hollywood in Toto podcast, HollywoodInToto.com. Christian Toto, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Do I have that right?
You bombarded me today, I have to say.
Yeah, do I have that right? The Acolyte is not exactly firing out of the starship.
It's not. Ratings are trickier in the streaming landscape because you'll read one report that says it's higher, you'll read another that says it's lower. I think the consensus is more on the low side. But listen, let's cut to the chase. The show is not good. I watched the first 3 episodes. Episodes 1 and 2 were generic. They didn't have a lot of tension. They weren't intriguing. I was bored, and I would have, if it wasn't a professional duty, would have tuned away. And then episode 3 was just so calamitously bad and comical. I mean, the bottom line is, I don't know why, but whenever there is this extreme virtue signaling, this messaging, this let's jump headfirst into the culture wars, the product so often stinks. It just stinks, okay? And if the product could stand on its own, and it was thrilling, and people couldn't wait to share it and talk about it, then they wouldn't have to go into all these theatrics. But the reason they often do is I think there's a deep down on some level, they just know the product isn't worth it. That's just my take.
Yeah, right. So, hey, you have to go see this. You have to sit through this as an obligation to be a card-carrying leftist, even though we know it sucks. You have to do this for us, kind of thing.
And listen, taste is subjective, and I say this carefully because I could love a movie and my fellow critic could hate a movie, but it's always interesting how the critical community seems to rally around these shows, and yet, obviously, when you look at Rotten Tomatoes, the audience score is plummeting. Is it really in the 80 percentile of being so good? It just isn't. And listen, we've seen other female-led Star Wars projects that were quite good. Rogue One was terrific. Maybe the best standalone Star Wars movie since the early days, and that was, a female hero. It had a very diverse cast, and no one complains about that because it was good, because it was entertaining. They didn't have to go on a pedestal and say, well, you need to watch this because it's empowering and diverse. No, it's just a good movie. Put out good stuff, and people will rally. That's it.
Maybe they were bored and they had to do something because it was Gay Pride Month. Is that a possibility?
And, listen, at the end of the day, if there are gay characters in a pop culture story, who cares? But I think people are just so bludgeoned by the conversation and the topic, and you must agree, and you must, and you can't even drive across a pride, a chalk outline on the street, or you get punished. I mean, it just feels so collectively annoying in a sense that even people who are for gay pride and have no problem with their gay brothers and sisters, like, please, come on, can we tone it down a little bit, please?
The big funder for Biden that presided over by, I guess in rank order of importance, Jimmy Kimmel and then Barack Obama right underneath him. Before we get to those big stars, when did Jack Black move up to Big Sky Country and move into Ted Kaczynski's cabin? Did you see that? Did you see that presentation?
He's got an aggressive beard. It's not just a beard. It's funny because he's a talented fellow, and I've met him in the past, and nice conversation. And he hasn't really made much comedy in recent years. I think he does some voiceover work, but I miss the days when Jack Black could show up on screen and make us laugh and be entertaining. But he rallied for the Iran deal with Obama. Now he's rallying for a president who can barely put a sentence together. It's getting sad. It's getting sad. I'd like to see him go back to being funny and being a really talented actor as opposed to just embarrassing himself. And if you listen to that clip, his shtick on that fundraiser,
it's brutal.
It was pure cringe. Like, dude, is it you can't write, or you didn't hire the right writers, or you're just so phoning it in? My gosh, at least be whimsical. It was tough to watch.
All right, I'm gonna disagree with you here. This is always interesting. This is Jack Black to me is like Robin Williams, although much less talented on the dramatic side. But I know I didn't really find Robin Williams funny, and I didn't really find him funny as a comedic actor. But I did find him very good in dramatic roles, even small roles like as the psychiatrist in Good Will Hunting. So I didn't think he was untalented. I didn't find him particularly funny, and I think his quote unquote comedies weren't that funny. Jack Black the same way. Other than Tropic Thunder, where he had a lot of support, he doesn't work for me as a comedic actor. But actually, in the few dramatic roles he's been in, like Bernie, which is an underappreciated movie, he was actually quite good.
I like The School of Rock.
Yeah, but that was more of a comedy.
Yeah, but I mean.
Yeah, School of Rock is in his wheelhouse, and I'm glad you mentioned Bernie because I think it was a very good film.
Yeah,
didn't really get much attention, and that was a more kind of darkly comic, but a more straight dramatic role, I'd say, with some undertones of humor, just based on a true story. But yeah, listen, these are talented people if given the right roles, the right script, if prodded in the right direction. But it is embarrassing to watch them. Listen, if the celebrities rally around Obama, I disagree with everything that Obama does or says, but at least he's upright. At least he's able to, perform the functions of a president, agree or disagree. But watching people just look the other way and saying, "Oh no, Joe Biden is fine," it really is embarrassing. And and no one holds anyone accountable these days, whether the media or the celebrities. But at some point, they have to look back at this chapter in their lives and think, why did I do that? That's embarrassing.
Well, President Biden, he had another senior moment where he just froze.
No, that's a cheap fake.
And Obama had to take him off stage. But how did Jimmy Kimmel spin it?
Really embarrassing. Jimmy Kimmel was on stage, so in theory, he had the perfect perspective. And he just said, "Oh no, he was communicating with the audience, and don't believe your eyes." Listen, we watched it, we saw it, we saw the unedited cut of it. It wasn't any deep fake. It was reality, and it matches with every other video we've seen for the last 3 years. Something's wrong with Joe Biden. That's a very sad statement, and it's not partisan. But Jimmy Kimmel is now a literal paid propagandist for the White House, and it is really sad to see the Man Show dude, the guy who was very funny, resort to this kind of behavior. And I know he's good friends with Adam Carolla off screen. They are pals, and I really support that. My wife and I are very different politically. I cheer it on, but boy, Adam Carolla must be biting his tongue when he hangs out with Jimmy these days, because what he's up to
I wouldn't
is
hang out
just
with him.
sheer.
Maybe he needs to hear this from somebody other than Adam Carolla. Jimmy, we forgive you for the Man Show. You can stop now. Right? It just seems to me this is all these acts of contrition to stay in the good standing and make the big paycheck and be be lionized in Hollywood. Just like return to being that sort of dumpy smart ass that you were on Win Ben Stein's Money, and we'd all be a lot better off. How about that?
Yeah, and I think the big question is, listen, there are liberal people who watch his show and who love him and appreciate his point of view. But even they, at their heart of hearts, must realize what he's doing. Do they really respect Jimmy Kimmel for lying to them in such an egregious fashion? Do they really? Isn't some part of them thinking, no, listen, I'm a progressive. I get it. I love my party, but stop. You can't do this, Jimmy. What's going on? Do people think that these days, or are they just all in?
Right. Well, and it's like, I mean, we continue to talk a lot about COVID, but and accountability, and these fluffers for the political power structure like Colbert and Kimmel, they like to do that too when they get Tony Fauci on, and they do the typical a hagiographic type of intros and the softball interviews and so forth. What about your accountability? Is there any sort of, with all the information coming out and the studies and so on and so forth, the testimony from Fauci, the 6 feet was just kind of made up and so forth. They devote any of their monologue, they come up with any little ditties with dancing syringes that walks back anything that they've did over the last 3 years just on that issue, for example, that's really does actually span a significant portion of the political spectrum, if not all of it.
Here's my defense of Kimmel and Company. They don't read those headlines. They don't see that news because it's either not covered or so glossed over with the press that they read that they're not aware of it. That's their best defense, and I suspect it may be true. They're not aware of it. You could pull aside your average liberal person today and say, "What do you think of Dr. Fauci?" And he or she is going to say, "He's a saint." I'm so glad we had him, and they will not. They will not understand. They did not read the news we read. They're not accessing what we see. So they just have the 2020 narrative still, and they will never really be shaken from that because the news they read will not tell the full story, and they're okay with that. They're unaware. They're unaware of what's happening in the world. And the perks of being a conservative, you get the whole spectrum of stories, and that makes you a better well-read person because you can actually debate the issues and you bring in facts. And someone who reads the paper and checks out CNN and all these outlets, they think Dr. Fauci's a saint. It's just that simple.
So I got to ask now, getting out of politics for a recommendation, because I'm obviously I'm not going to be watching The Acolyte, and I'm relegated to rewatching Battlestar Galactica from 15 years ago. So give me a series or a movie that you've consumed lately that you would highly recommend.
Always a tough question. I will say in theaters, Inside Out 2 is pretty charming. It is apolitical. It's making a ton of money. I think the brand is strong. I think Disney finally kind of stepped away from the culture wars. Mm-hmm. Honestly, right now I've been binge watching episodes of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which is on
that's great,
and Netflix.
That's great.
And it there are little tiny morsels of woke, and they always kind of shake me by surprise.
Yeah.
But the show is so perfectly cast and funny, and I'm actually catching up with it. So I know the last season became full BLM propaganda, and it breaks my heart to even think about that. But just watch the early episodes. I mean, I've been doing that with Parks and Rec, with The Office, with Modern Family, shows created just before the woke revolution because they were still really funny and smart and insightful and wise. And I cling to it, So I need to catch up on some newer stuff. I know The Boys is out. I've heard that one's gone pretty woke as well. It was a once good show that just got leaned into propaganda, from what I understand. But yet, no new show has captured me of late. I apologize for that.
Yeah, no, I mean it's the same way, and I consume a lot of it too. That's I had to go back to Battlestar.
What? Have you watched Loot on Apple?
No,
I haven't. No, part of my problem is that as a film critic, I have to watch all the new movies or as many as I can, so it kind of cuts into my TV viewing. Although I've heard nothing but universal praise for Shogun, which I believe is on FX. So if you're looking for something intriguing and well done, I've heard zero complaints. It's not woke. It's just fascinating.
What's the Apple TV show with Colin Farrell? I forgot the name, but that's been recommended to me too. But I know you're focused on the movies right now. There's an Apple TV show. It's like Dark Skies or something like that.
Real quick, what about the 1923 series?
Yeah, that's part of the Yellowstone universe. I'm a little behind
Yellowstone.
There. I will say that Apple TV seems to make not as much content, but the shows they put out
better quality,
better reviewed.
Yep. Yeah,
like Severance, and so I think they're doing it right in a very different way, because Netflix has a new show every 2 seconds, and a lot of it's garbage, But I think Apple TV is just taking a different path, and I think that quality over quantity may be pretty smart in the streaming age.
100%. Christian Toto, host of the Hollywood in Toto podcast. That's at Hollywood in Toto, Toto, HollywoodInToto.com. Christian Toto, thanks as always.
My pleasure.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
At Signature Bank, going the distance for business banking customers is what we do every day. We understand that business owners have a strategic mission, a drive to succeed, a plan for growth, and don't have time to wait for a bank to respond. With Signature Bank, you not only have a banking partner that has roots right here in Chicago, but our decisions are made